The Lord is my shepherd. Hardly any other psalm is as well known and as familiar as this one. I believe that there are two reasons for that. The first reason is Jesus, because he says of himself, I am the good shepherd. I lay down my life for the sheep. I never leave you alone. That is why this psalm has always had a special meaning for Christians. And the other reason that this psalm has had such an impact, that is the language. When you pray it and close your eyes, you can imagine it in your mind's eye. Green pastures, fresh water, gloomy valley, and table set. It's like being there, strong images and a strong language. And there are also many other things to discover. It starts with the way this psalm is structured. Who speaks to whom and about whom? The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. That is the framework of the psalm. That is how it begins and ends. At the beginning, it goes straight into action without a long run-up. It is about God, who is like a shepherd, and not like any shepherd, but mine. It's not about any theories about God. It sounds almost like a confession. God and I, that is what the psalm is about. And at the end, the house, a contrast to the shepherd's life, which then as now takes place for long periods of time in the open air. At the end, there is abiding, a protection that is permanent, and an arrival at a destination. At the end, untypically for a sheep, there is no slaughter, but a home. Look, says the psalm, no matter what life is like to you, God is there, and he will always be there. With him is your home now and forever. That is the framework of the psalm and the framework of our lives. Immediately after the opening, there are statements about God and about the one who speaks the psalm. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He refreshes my soul. He guides me along the right path for his name's sake. Everything relates to the image that stood at the beginning. God is like a shepherd. He provides for me. He guides me. He sends me into the world, but I am not alone in this world. The world, the landscape, green pastures, quiet, refreshing waters. I wonder if the person who wrote the psalm at that time had the second story of creation in mind. It tells how God places mankind in the garden, how man is given a mission to preserve the world, and how he overestimates himself. At the end, there is the statement, we no longer live in paradise, but in a world that sometimes threatens us. The psalm says, look how beautiful the world still is, and see how God is with you. And then something changes. Until now, the psalm always spoke of God, the Lord, He, and then it changes. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, I will fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely your goodness and love will follow me all the days of my life. Suddenly, God is addressed directly. It has to do with the subjects, I think. It's not a coincidence. Even though I walk through the darkest valley, the presence of my enemies, sometimes you feel like your life is getting dark. Sometimes you feel like everything is going wrong. There are dark valleys in life. Many times I've prayed Psalm 23 with people who were dying, or together with the relatives when someone had just passed away and we stood around the bed stunned. And then comes the you. In crisis, small and large, you need not so much sentences about God, but sentences that address God. Faith is a matter of relationship. And maybe then you'll notice that over the time not only your language changes, but also yourself. Like at the psalm, where towards the end everything moves more and more towards praise and gratitude. You can let yourself fall into it, almost like a meditation exercise. I do that sometimes when I'm running. I say the beginning in German in my head in the rhythm in which I breathe. Der Herr ist, and I exhale and let go. My shepherd, mein Hirte, and I inhale and feel he's there. Mir wird, I shall, I exhale and let go. Lack nothing, nichts mangeln. I inhale and feel him strengthening me. And after a while I notice how I become serene. So the psalm can become a very personal companion in life, and you don't have to start running for that. It also works when you're just walking. But there is one more thing that is especially important on this weekend, because we will have our AGM, and that is the we. Perhaps you are thinking now, but there is no we in the whole psalm. That is true. But there is a we, nevertheless. That is the community of the communion of all those who pray the psalm. After all, psalms are not teaching texts, but prayers. And this prayer is about 3,000 years old. How many people may have prayed it? Prayers like Psalm 23 place us in a great communion, communion across the ages. Faith does not begin with me and does not end with me. Communion across religions. This prayer originated in Judaism and is still prayed by our older brothers and sisters in faith. God's story with the world does not start with Christians and does not end with us. Communion between churches and denominations who sometimes can't agree on much else, but in prayer hopefully they get silent. The psalm is not mine, but I may borrow it when I need it. I pray it with others. That unites us. That is how I would like to go into this weekend with the AGM, with a reminder that God is our shepherd and that together we all are guests in his house. Amen.